James, I don't know if it's your line or someone else's is he the digital whip, or is everything now the digital whip?
I think in this environment, I would probably say everything is the a digital whip. It's not hard for sort of a certain movement arising on social media, being picked up by influencers and pundits. Obviously, the chief digital whip would probably be Elon Musk, since he owns a social media platform and he's not hesitant to tweet or X-post a lot. So he's probably the chief digital whip. But listen, I would also pay attention to those 38 Republicans, House Republicans, who voted against Plan B. And over the next 4 years, I would worry about them and the influence they project, maybe being more influential than Elon Musk.
So, if nothing else, they have renewed kind of power and ascendance, Jimmy, because of the position that Doge is taking on this. Which brings me back to a larger question: is this what the sort of public who voted for Trump wants?
Well, I think there are some Republicans, and perhaps Elon Musk is one of them, who think what the public want is a sort of a radical change in government, maybe what they're doing in Argentina, massive budget cuts. Do people want that? I think people sort of, want there to be change and want there to be something that they want government shaken up, but they haven't been very specific about what that change would be. And certainly President Trump wasn't super specific about what that change would be. So there's a void. Elon Musk is filling that void, but I think it remains to be seen if that's what the public overall wants, especially when we start moving to specifics like, you're going to cut $2 trillion. Where's that going to come from? I think that's a different ballgame.
Because Trump did not run on the platform that he did in Argentina. He ran. Look, he ruled out cuts to Social Security and made it obvious that he wasn't coming after entitlements. And you can't do anything meaningful without that. It's obvious he wants to renew his tax cuts. That will weigh it. So it feels to me like the mandate he was elected with was, yes, we like that you're going to safeguard some of these expensive programs and things. And sure, on the side, if Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy can kind of reform the way the government works and clean it up a little bit, get rid of the waste. But it seems to me as though that's now become the central kind of hallmark of what people think this whole administration is about. And it's not clear to me at all that that's what he ran on or was elected to do.
Yeah, listen, I think there are going to be points where Elon Musk can have a lot of influence in stopping something. Our whole government is built on the ability to stop bad things from happening, to slow things down. That's especially going to be the case in a narrow Congress. Musk might also have influence on issues in which even his critics would say he has some knowledge about. AI, electric vehicles, space. I mean, if NASA kills the SLS program, you could probably thank Elon Musk. If we get something done in high-skill immigration, which Elon Musk wants, that would show his influence. But beyond those kinds of issues, the kinds of big, broad, like entitlement-related issues, which have just killed presidencies in the past. I mean, George Bush, W. Bush failed badly on Social Security. I don't think the scenario's changed any much unless you ran on that agenda and won easily on that kind of very specific agenda. Good luck getting anything done on it.